Today I'm sharing the Edgar Allan Poe book tag. Hey there, it's Mitzi. Welcome to my channel. Today I am sharing my responses to the Edgar Allan Poe book tag. This is an original tag created by Kat over at Kat's Novel Adventures. And thank you, Kat, for tagging me because she knows I'm a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan. So I was excited to be tagged for this one. By the way, if you have tagged me, I do have a bunch of papers here. I have been listening to all of your tags, and I've been actually printing them out and putting them together on this little clipboard, but I have just not gotten to them because I am an overthinker and I need to just say whatever comes to mind and just get through these tags. So I will be participating in these tags. Thank you for tagging me. Just be patient with me because I overthink everything. Okay, so anyway, the Edgar Allan Poe book tag I can definitely do because I do love Edgar Allan Poe. And it's funny because when I came in here, I was looking through my books to pull some to talk to you about, and I realized I'm actually wearing my Edgar Allan Poe shirt, so I was excited about that. This is my Raven shirt that my husband gave me, and so I wanted to mention that even though I didn't mean to wear it for the Edgar Allan Poe book tag, I guess it's just meant to be. So here we go. The Edgar Allan Poe book tag, and I don't know if I mentioned it, but I will leave a link to Kat's video below, so make sure you go over and watch her original tag. Number one, what was your introduction to Edgar Allan Poe? For me, it was middle school. I think it's because of where I'm from, the area where I live, because I am in the South here, and Edgar Allan Poe was, you know, a huge, popular writer for the South because he wrote Southern Gothic. So Edgar Allan Poe, William Faulkner, Flannery O'Connor, those are big names for us in the school system. We, you know, in our literature classes, we would always have studies where we talked about a lot of the Southern Gothic writers. And another thing about like Flannery O'Connor and Edgar Allan Poe is that they wrote a lot of short works. So it was easier to read those in class. You know, you could study several of their stories, you know, in a semester. So that probably was why it lends itself well to teaching in class. So I don't know where you're from, but where I'm from, we read a lot of Southern Gothic type literature. And I happen to love that. I don't know what that says about me. That I can relate to the Southern Gothic fiction so well, but I can. That might not be a good thing to say, but I can, and I find it super interesting. And so we studied a lot of Edgar Allan Poe just about every year, middle through middle school and high school. We studied Edgar Allan Poe. Number two, name your favorite Edgar Allan Poe story. That's hard because I do love a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. I probably would say The Fall of the House of Usher because that was one of my first stories that I remember studying was The Fall of the House of Usher. So that probably would be my favorite. And if you haven't read The Fall of the House of Usher, I highly recommend starting there. Number three, The Black Cat. Name a book with an animal that plays a significant role in the story. That's easy for me. I plug this book every chance I get. You probably already know what the book is if you follow my channel. And that is Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. This centers around this sweet little pig, Wilbur, and it is a beautiful story of friendship. I always recommend this book if you've never read it. And if you have read it, I always recommend reading it every decade. So pick it back up this year and read it. Middle grade March is coming up. Put this on your list for middle grade March. Another one that I love that centers around a little mouse. This was a Newbery winner, and it is The Tale of Despereaux. This is one sweet little story that I really love too. I love The Tale of Despereaux. And then another one that is an adult story. We studied this actually in high school, but this is a famous classic, and that is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I love this story. A lot of people don't. I hear mixed reviews on Animal Farm, but I love it, and I have read this several times. It's not very long. You could read it in a day or a weekend. So if you haven't read Animal Farm, it centers around a farm of animals, and I highly recommend that one too. Number 4, The Man of the Crowd. Name a suspenseful book where a character is fascinated by a stranger. I immediately thought of the book and pulled it from my shelf. That is The Man in the Brown Suit by Agatha Christie. This book is a really good example of Agatha Christie's work. When I first saw the cover and thought, okay, The Man in the Brown Suit, I thought this was going to be boring, to tell you the truth. I mean, a man in a brown suit, you know, but it really is a good one. There is a great adventure in this story, and what happens is at the beginning there is this accidental death. This person witnesses a death, an accident, and there is this man in a brown suit, and he's acting suspicious. The witness thinks that he's acting suspicious, and so she's convinced that he may have had something to do with this death. So that's how the story begins, and it is a great one if you haven't read it. Number 5, The Premature Burial. Name a book featuring a graveyard in the story or on the cover. That was easy for me because I have another Newbery for that, Neil Gaiman's The Graveyard Book. This story takes place mainly in a cemetery. And then I have one that I haven't read. I just picked this up last summer, but I want to get to this one soon. And this is Ray Bradbury's A Graveyard for Lunatics. Have you read this? Let me know in the comments. I'm excited to read this one. I want to read everything by Ray Bradbury, so I can't wait to try that one. Number 6, The Oval Portrait. Name a book where mirrors or paintings have magical or supernatural qualities. So immediately I thought of Snow White, and I have on my shelf Fairest by Gail Carson Levine, and this is a retelling of Snow White. You can see there in the picture that she is holding a mirror in her hand, so there is a magical mirror involved in that retelling of Snow White. Number 7, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. Name your favorite book or short story series with a detective or amateur sleuth. I will have to say Miss Marple is probably my favorite right now. I'm really enjoying reading through the Miss Marple series. But I will also say that I love, because we were talking Edgar Allan Poe and he's known for his great short stories, I will also say The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes is a great short story collection featuring the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. I highly recommend this. I finally read it last year and fell absolutely in love with these adventures, so I highly recommend this one. Number 8, The Masque of the Red Death. Name an apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic book where people have been impacted by a plague or a virus. Now, I couldn't think of anything right off the top of my head because, you know, I was just pulling these off. I didn't want to overthink this. But I do have this beautiful copy of The Masque of the Red Death. It doesn't just have this. I received this for Christmas. Isn't this beautiful? It's one of those little cloth bounds. And it has The Masque of the Red Death. It's the featured story, but it also has The Black Cat and some others in it too. So I just love this little copy of this book. But I couldn't think of one for that, so if you know of one that I might be interested in, leave a comment below. Number 9, The Pit and the Pendulum. Name a genre that is torturous for you to read. I thought this one was a funny one. I don't know that any are torturous for me to read. I guess I would say off the top of my head, maybe horror that has a lot of gore in it. That would be torturous for me because I don't like a lot of violence or violent details, you know, those kind of books. So I'll say horror with a lot of gore in it. Number 10, The Fall of the House of Usher. Name your favorite Gothic fiction book. And I have lots of Gothic fiction favorites because I have a whole shelf full. I love Gothic fiction, and I fell in love with Gothic fiction in middle school with Jane Eyre. So I'll start with Jane Eyre. I always say that's my favorite, but I have lots of favorites, and so I didn't want to just mention that one. I also wanted to mention one that I don't talk about too much, and that is The House of the Seven Gables by Nathaniel Hawthorne. This is a really good example of Gothic fiction as well. It has like this, there's this so-called curse on the land, and then it kind of has a domino effect. And it's really a good book too. And I don't hear a lot of people talk about this book, but I really like The House of the Seven Gables. And then one, if you're not into classic literature, this was published not too long ago, and that is The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. This is a great example of the kind of Gothic fiction that I really enjoy. I love this book. I really enjoyed this one. So those are some that are on my shelf that are absolute favorites. But again, I love a lot of Gothic fiction. Number 11, The Cask of Amontillado. Name a book with an unreliable narrator. This book is not Gothic fiction. In case you're not a Gothic fiction fan, this one is, I recommend this to anybody. And that is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. This book is brilliant, and it's definitely an unreliable narrator. The guy is just so caught up in his own prejudices, his own way of looking at the world, that he misses things around him. It is a great read. I highly recommend this if you're not read it. They actually made a movie of this that's great as well. I enjoyed the adaptation of that one. Number 12, The Telltale Heart. Name a book with body horror in it. Since I don't read a lot of gory horror, I really didn't have any. I think Kat mentioned this one, so I'm going to mention it too because it is a favorite for me. It's a favorite Gothic fiction as well, and that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. If you've not read Frankenstein, I'm always trying to plug this book too. I absolutely love this book. And really that was about the only one on my shelf that I could think of. And then number 13 is to tag fellow fans of Poe. I'm not sure if you are an Edgar Allan Poe fan or not. I hope that you are. And if you are and you have a BookTube channel, consider yourself tagged. I would love to hear your responses to these questions. I will tag several people that I'm not sure if they are Edgar Allan Poe fans, but I know that they read short stories, and I know that they also read across genres. So that's why I'm going to tag these three, and that's Alice from Alice in the Giant Bookshelf, Ollie from Criminale, and Gemma from Gemma Books. I know that they read all sorts of books, and they will read some short stories, so I would love to hear your responses to this tag. So let me know in the comments if you are an Edgar Allan Poe fan. If you've read any of these books, let me know that too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.